Good day, everyone. As the participants are gathering, I would like to say hello from Washington, D.C. Just in case, for your information, where you're about to board, it's a flight that takes you to the e-Residency. The topic of the event today is how can e-Residency help US citizens, but why not others, start their borderless business in EU. We shall talk about the e-Residency. We have a great set of speakers for you today. On the waiting list, we've got Ülane Vilumets from Enterprise Estonia, who will take us through the basic things that everyone in this group and wider should know about the e-Residency. Then we have Ian Wagner from Seoul, who is a great example of a successful e-resident who has made this program work for his benefit. And thirdly, we have Denise Jõgeva, who is from the service provider company One Office, and he shall guide us through the technicalities that usually are the biggest interest for anyone who is doing their business from the distance. Note about why do we have Ülane with us and we don't have James is that this is a time that we are living in, and James was exposed to someone who has tested positive. So we have recommended him to use C vitamin and have a lot of liquids and to get well soon. But nevertheless, we are good to go. For the beginning, I would like to give a word to the head of mission of Estonian Embassy in Washington, D.C., to Marko Koplima. Marko, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Iti. And thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm Marko. I'm the head of mission currently here in Washington, D.C. And it is my great pleasure to literally meet you and to open up this session about the e-Residency program that we in Estonia hold great value to. I think this is an excellent opportunity. I think we have a great team here who can go into the nooks and crannies of what the e-Residency is and how it could be practically beneficial to US citizens and entrepreneurs in the future. As an overview of the e-Residency, Estonia was the first country in the world to offer such a program a few years back. And the goal of the program was, I think, quite simple. It was a tool that was offered to entrepreneurs to ease access to new markets and also make life easier as a businessman in doing business. And it doesn't really matter if your target market is Estonia, whether it's the European Union, or whether it's somewhere else on the globe. We are living in an interconnected world. If the past 18 months has taught us anything, it's the simple fact that where your office is physically doesn't really may not matter that much on where your actual business is conducted. And one of the key features this transformation has been possible in the economic sphere is digital solutions and revolution of digital solutions globally. Luckily, Estonia has been on the front line of digital development and the digital revolution for the past few decades. We as a society have seen the true benefits of going digital, and if a digital system is done effectively and in the right way, it can offer limitless new opportunities. It can increase efficiencies and decrease bureaucracy while providing an added layer of security. So we do fundamentally believe in Estonia that digital solutions make life easier for people, for entrepreneurs, and it makes life also a bit more secure. Now, the e-Residency program is one way we wanted to share this experience with the world. The fundamental concept of e-Residency, I think, and I know my colleagues here on the line know more about it than I do, but for me, the key aspect of it, of e-Residency, is the fact that it offers a way for any entrepreneur or any person globally to identify themselves in the digital sphere with a government-backed digital identity. Put simply, the e-Residency card will allow you to identify yourself in the digital world in a way that the Estonian government will recognize and support. And of course, this opens up opportunities, offers up new opportunities to interact with the Estonian government and also be recognized wider. That means from signing documents to starting new businesses or conducting business based in Estonia. So first of all, I do think it's a tool that allows the Estonian to be legally identified by Estonia and work in the Estonian legal system. But secondly, probably more important to this audience, it is also a tool that opens up the Estonian business environment. The Estonian business environment has been for many years globally ranked as being one of the most free and one of the easiest places in the world to do business. The Estonian government has made over the decades a systematic effort to decrease bureaucracy and make life of an entrepreneur as easy as possible. And I think we've seen the effects of that. And of course, through working in Estonia, it also opens up the biggest economic bloc in the world to any entrepreneur, that is the European Union. And it does also allow access to the global markets. So the opportunities here are wide and truly close to being limitless. So I do hope that today's seminar will help you to answer many of the questions you might have, give you insights of the e-Residency program and how that could be beneficial to you in starting new enterprises or expanding your enterprises to Estonia, to Europe, or wider, and hopefully inspires you to join the e-Residency program. I think we're looking forward to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Marko. Before I give it over to Ülane, all your questions are very welcome. Please use the Q&A box for posting questions, and we will cover all of them. This is a promise that I can give in the beginning, and later back from that in the question answer section. Be ready for interactive discussion later on. But now over to Ülane, and I'm sure she will also share her screen. Thank you. Out.
Thank you so much for having me on such a short notice. So greetings to you from the headquarters of e-Residency in Tallinn. Hope you can see my slides just about now. Somebody give me a sign. Yes. Yes. So really nice to be here today and tell you a little bit about the e-Residency program of Estonia and Estonia itself, because I do believe that we have to probably start from why Estonia and why you should even be interested in this. So Estonia is a tiny country, and we're fully aware that a lot of people in the world might not even know where it is. But we've done a couple of things really well in the past because we are a young country, and we have had the luxury of doing reforms from scratch about 30 years ago. So Estonia today is a very advanced digital country, even though we have a population of 1.3 million people. When I meet people from around the world, then I like to say that how to get to Estonia, you go to Finland, then you turn right. So that's kind of where it is. What does it mean to have a fully digital society? 99% of our public services are online. Back in 2003, I was an undergraduate student working in the United States on a work and travel program. And I specifically remember telling my friends in the United States how our income tax declaration looks like after I returned to Estonia. All of it is pre-filled. Government usually has pretty good data about you. You maybe have to add 1 or 2 things in there, but for most people, it is confirm, confirm, submit. And that's all we have to do for declaring personal taxes. 99% of digital services. That also means that today there is one thing that you cannot do online in Estonia, and that is getting married. Up until the COVID situation, there were two things. You couldn't buy property without showing up at a notary, but even that has been now solved, so you can do it through e-notary. That's the level of digitalization in Estonia. We are a startup nation. We are very entrepreneurial, and there is about 1,000 startups in Estonia, which you can look up. We're quite the Silicon Valley here. You can look up Estonian startup database that is run by Startup Estonia. And as our government also tries to be very entrepreneurial, we like to call ourselves as the startup of Estonian government. So similarly to Silicon Valley, that's why I get to wear a hoodie at work. So e-Residency was introduced in 2014. And the main goal of the e-Residency program is to attract, obviously, business opportunities and investment into our small country, and also support our economic growth, but also with a tiny hope that maybe Estonia will become more well-known in the world. So that we'll see. So what is e-Residency? E-Residency is a digital identity. Everyone in Estonia has an ID card, which is a smart card, and you put it in a reader, and that creates the connection with all of these digital services. So e-Residency does exactly the same thing. It's your digital identity and an access to all these public services in Estonia. And actually, I have to correct myself, not only public services, but also most of private services like banks and other things log in with the e-Residency card as well. It's your identity, so it's very secure. There is no point of hoping that you can run some shady business with the Estonian ID card, because it actually adds an extra layer of being identified. And you can sign all the documents with the digital signature. None of us have a paper-based work contract. We sign everything digitally. So that's just kind of the level of being able to communicate online. And a big plus is being part of this global e-resident community. So people around the world who have become e-resident provide some really nice connections in other countries for business as well. But the name is a little bit misleading. So I also have to say what the e-Residency is not. So the e-Residency does not give you an actual travel document, the citizenship to Estonia, a visa for that matter. You cannot travel to the EU with this. It doesn't give you residency permit in Estonia, and also it doesn't automatically give you tax residency in Estonia. So these are some of the important things to understand while talking about e-Residency as such. So e-Residency is really for anyone outside of Estonia, the key to registering an EU-based company online. And what Marco was saying in the very beginning, that it's an access to Estonian business environment, I would rephrase that. It's access to the European Union's business environment. So what you're really doing is that you're registering a business entity in a trusted EU country. So when your customers are in the EU, you are also in the EU with this. You can securely access a wide range of Estonian public and private sector services. You can digitally sign contracts. You could even employ from distance. You could have an office in Estonia without ever setting foot into Estonia. So these are just some of the benefits that e-Residency gives you. And tapping into our really entrepreneurial ecosystem, which Ian is a great example of. Just recently, just last month, we exceeded a magic number of 80,000 e-residents who have created 16,000 companies in Estonia. So as you can see, not everybody creates a company. There's a bunch of people who actually just are big fans of this digital development and want to be e-residents as individuals, just as fans of Estonia's transformation. But what it looks like to apply for e-Residency, you get together your identification documents, you fill out and submit an online application that is accessible easily through the e-Residency website. It takes some minutes to find out all the questions to the answers to the questions that our police and border guard wants to have about you, and then they will review your application within 30 days. This means that usually it takes less. In Estonia, everything usually takes less than we promise, but we have to give a reasonable time frame. And then the e-Residency kit, which comes with the smart card and its reader, will reach your pickup location in 2 to 5 weeks. And then you have 6 months to pick up your card and activate your e-Residency. What does it cost to become an e-resident? There is a state fee of processing your application. So it is 100 euros, and depending on where you pick up your e-Residency card, there's also a small surcharge for the pickup location. So it really depends on where you get it. There's no annual fees. Changing a pickup location from something that is closer to, from something further away from something closer to you, as we go along, we are opening new pickup locations, costs also 10 to 80 euros. Then in 5 years, we do make another background check on you. So you have to renew your e-Residency in 5 years again. And if you lose your card, then you have to replace it, but to be able to keep using the services. But there are also new solutions like Smart ID, which you can connect to your identity. So actually, like, that's not the end of the world, and you can still keep on logging in. And getting new PIN codes is also something that people ask about very often. So why should you be interested in creating a company in Estonia? A pretty far away place from the US. Like I said, it actually, I wouldn't look at it as Estonia. I would look at it as part of the EU. And besides that, Estonia is probably more advanced than some of the old countries around here. So we have a very liberal economy. The business environment has always scored really well on different lists of indexes and charts. So for example, ease of doing business, that is put together by PwC. We are in the top 20, even I think number 16 or something like that recently. Then our tax system has, for several years, I think 7 in a row, been the #1 in the world. So the most competitive tax system in the world. We have a very highly educated human capital here. So if you're thinking of hiring an actual office of people, then there's no better place to do it, because everybody in Estonia speaks English. And also, if you are thinking of doing business through Estonia towards the east, then a lot of people also speak Russian here. And we're an active member of international organizations like NATO and OECD. The company registration in a nutshell: once you have your e-Residency card, then actually, depending on how you do it, roughly it should take about 15 minutes to register your company in Estonia. You can do it yourself, or you can go to one of the service providers and have somebody do it for you. But roughly, it shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. Then another important thing to know is that as an e-resident, one of the services that you are obliged to use in Estonia is a contact person and legal address service provider. So we have gathered these companies who have a license to offer this service. It's a licensed activity in Estonia. We have gathered them to our marketplace, so you can easily find one. You can choose anything from very basic just the address, subscription, and contact person, to full stack accounting, legal, tax advice. And we're doing this event today together with One Office, which is a really great example of this one-stop shop for a lot of those things in Estonia. So you have to choose a business service provider before you continue, as their address becomes your company's address in the eyes of the Estonian government. And then you log into the company registration portal and register your company, or like I said, you can have somebody do it for you. You should check whether your business activity needs a license in Estonia, and then obtain one if it does. And you should be ready to go. Applying for a business banking account, we work with several fintechs that can provide banking services to e-residents. We recommend TransferWise, NowWise. We also work with Paysera and Payoneer. And an Estonian-based bank, LHV, is our top choice to recommend for non-resident bank accounts in Estonia. For LHV, you need to have a stronger connection to Estonia somehow. So you should probably think about what your needs are and whether you really need a real bank, because the fintechs nowadays really do provide these services quite well. But it depends on your specific situation. I have also gathered here some real e-residents with their opinions about the e-residency, and you can just quickly see like what are some of the main benefits that people like to bring out. The simplicity, the flexibility, being able to live anywhere and run your company in Estonia from anywhere is one of the things that makes this a really good choice for a lot of freelancers, a lot of digital nomads. For example, our working culture is very much for distant solutions. So I recently spent 6 weeks abroad myself doing all my work just like I would be right here in the office with no issues. And this is a similar lifestyle that a lot of those e-residents also pursue, being able to take their family, live somewhere and work from there and run a business from there. A lot of people also value really highly that the ecosystem of uniting this private sector side together with the public sector side and providing the service together as a nice set works really well for them. So it's actually really seamless procedure to come on board, choose a service provider and start doing business. And of course, I won't get into too much of your but we do have Ian here today as a real e-resident and also a founding member of ERICA, which is an organization uniting e-residents from around the world and lobbying for their interests. So Ian will share his specific experience, but he's exactly the kind of person who lives in one place, has a partner in another place, and runs a business totally on the go. So it's really nice. And who you should contact if you have any questions about the residency. We like to say that everything that concerns the e-residency as a program, come to us, come to our team, contact our customer support. But everything more specific, like company incorporation, legal questions, tax consulting, business advice, because we have created this ecosystem of these service providers, we leave it to them. We leave it to the private sector to consult you in the best way, depending on your own business model and the specifics of your business. So, in this case, get in touch with one office and they'll be able to tell you exactly how it works. Estonian tax board is probably one of the most friendly tax boards in the world. So if you have any questions about taxes, then you are welcome to contact the Estonian Tax and Customs Board. They have a special email even for non-residents. And anything about company registration and annual reports, you should contact our Center of Registers and Information, which helps you with all of this information, what and when and how do you have to submit. So in a nutshell, this is all about the e-residency from my side. And like we said in the beginning, we're really happy if you have more questions and you would like to find out more specifics, and please post them in the Q&A section so we could later take them one by one and choose the best person to also answer. So that's all from me, and I will give it back to Iti.
Thank you, Ilana. Lots of information to process. And for your information, we are also recording the webinar here, and it will be later available in YouTube and different channels that we will send you information about. But yes, keep those questions coming to question and answer section. The ones that are there are very easy to answer, but we will do it in the end. And now after Ülane has spoken, we have a little question for you. So a poll will appear in your window. And the question is, do you already have an Estonian company? Just click yes or no. We're curious to see how many of you have already been able to start a business in Estonia. We could ask different questions, but we chose to ask this question today. So 30 seconds, not more, yes or no, and we will share the results with you. Thank you. But after the poll has ended, it will disappear, and we will have a chance to hear from Ian Wagner, who is in the middle of the night there in Seoul at the moment. I'm not sure that I'm envious about the night, but I'm definitely envious about Seoul. So thank you. Over to you, Ian.
Awesome. It's a great place. By the way, if anyone on this call is an e-resident and wants to come visit after all the travel restrictions are up, then hit me up. I'm sure they'll send out some contact information for me. I'd love to give you a tour. So, hey everyone, I am Ian. I'm originally from the US, born in the Detroit area, went to school in South Carolina for university, and then recently moved over here to South Korea. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a different talk. I'm not really gonna use any slides or anything, and I'll just give a bit more of a story focus about my journey as an e-resident with some fun facts along the way about myself and my business. And I hope that this will be helpful for you and will spark some interesting questions and maybe be a little entertaining as well. So I guess I should probably start with how I became an e-resident. I originally saw an article online. I can't remember what the source was. It was from like Hacker News or something, one of these kind of geeky websites. And I just saw that this this little country that I have to admit I had never heard of before was launching this this kind of like, I didn't really know what it was. I thought, oh, it's like this you know, digital citizenship something or other. So I looked into it a little bit and I realized, okay, they're just trying to decentralize the government services and make this something that anyone can use, whether or not they're a citizen or physical resident. And that idea just kind of resonated with me. Being a tech entrepreneur myself, I'm all about decentralization, and this kind of idea of a borderless world is something that's always appealed to my sort of inner libertarian. So I thought that that was just a really cool idea. And they had this this smart card tech that also kind of got me excited as like a geeky person. And I was like, okay, you know, we've got all these, you know, security certificates and stuff that we use for, you know, using the internet to secure our banking traffic and stuff. But they've made it really easy by giving you a personal physical security certificate, which is it's actually what, like, you know, the U.S. Defense Department and other organizations that have high security requirements use. So it's actually a really cool thing. And so I just was like, ah, sure, why not? What do I have to lose? It was like $100 or something at the time, and so I just signed up. So I walked into the embassy in DC actually about 6 years ago, and it picked up my card. And I didn't really know what to do with it at first. I was kind of planning to leave the US at some point. I had been remote working for about 5 years at that point, and have been doing so ever since. And so I was just like, okay, this is kind of cool. So about 6 months later, then I got a survey. Actually, the Estonian government was trying to figure out who are these people that are signing up for e-residency and what are they wanting to use it for. I had done some research and realized that the main use case was starting a company, but I didn't really have any use for it at the moment, because if you're a US resident, you're only serving US customers, then a US LLC is definitely the best corporate structure as far as taxes and legal headache, unless you have another reason to have a foreign corporation. So I didn't really need it, but so I just took the survey, and at the end, and they were like, okay, we can give you a $50 Amazon gift card or a ticket to Latitude 59. And I was like, okay, what's Latitude 59? And they're like, oh, it's this, tech startup conference and stuff that goes on in Estonia every year. I'm like, that's an interesting idea. I still don't know what I'm doing with this card yet, but I might as well, if the main use case is incorporating, then I might as well go and check the place out and at least, get a feel for it, meet some locals, and see if this is a place that I would ever want to incorporate or even, visit or move if I'm thinking about leaving the US anyways in the next 5 years. So I went there. I spent a week in Tallinn in 2016, got to get a feel for the local startup scene and vibe. As Ulane mentioned earlier, actually, you can't only email the tax board, you can actually walk into their office. I think this is still the case. So I had read on some other e-residents blog that he had walked into the tax office to ask them questions, and I was just like, YOLO, what the heck? So I just walked in and asked them to like explain how the VAT system worked, because as an American, it just didn't make any sense to me initially. And so these two older ladies, like really nicely, they tried to walk me through the whole thing, and I thought, this is like the coolest thing ever. Like, you couldn't walk into the IRS. I mean, you walk into the DMV and they won't even give you the time of day. So I was like, okay, something's a little interesting here. So that was a good first impression. At the actual conference, I made a bunch of Estonian friends. Most of them worked at startups like TransferWise and a bunch of smaller ones as well. And the feeling that I came away from the whole event and the whole week there in Estonia was that if Estonians had a motto, it would probably something like "Ask not why, but why not." No one told them that this little country of 1.3 million people couldn't decentralize the concept of government services. And that's just kind of the attitude that the whole startup ecosystem had, and that just really resonated me. Another interesting thing that I realized about the business environment was that the entire legal code is online. Now, I know we have this in the US, but it's not really easily searchable, and it's not really what I would call readable for the average reasonably intelligent person. But in Estonia, like, you can actually go and read the entire like commercial code or the tax code. And if you're a reasonably motivated, intelligent person, you can actually go and, find general answers to the kinds of questions that you would need. And you can even see like when it's almost like if you're a software developer, like using a version control system where you can see, hey, this is the date that this particular section of law was put into effect or was repealed. And you can even see pending legislation that's going to take effect in the future. And so it's, I just thought that was like really cool that they had gotten to that level of digitalness. And that's really cool for anyone who's an entrepreneur. So after that, I dragged my friend Luke, who you saw a picture of earlier, to Estonia for a week at the end of the summer. He was already traveling around Europe at the time. And so I was like, hey, dude, you got to come and we got to go back to this place. This is really cool. We got to go check this out. So he came along and he was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Yeah, maybe we could do something here. So next year comes around, we went to Latitude 59 again. I actually met one office there. They had a booth, and that was what convinced me to actually start my company, because they had someone there who was able to answer all of my laundry list of tax questions, which I'm sure we'll get a bunch of in the Q&A session later. So at that point, I had been dating a Korean girl for quite some time, and I had finally convinced her parents that I was cool, not some random creeper or whatever. And so I was planning to move to Korea. So I decided to set up my company, and I initially started it kind of like for ideological reasons, because like the Estonian government clearly wants location independent entrepreneurs, whereas in the US it's not quite so friendly to that kind of thing. Everything's kind of archaic and paper based. And so I thought, okay, I'm moving to another country. I can have my company anywhere. As Marco was saying earlier, it doesn't really matter in the modern age. Like, we have remote work where we're able to move about the world freely. Our work is mostly online. And so where I had my company didn't really matter. So I wanted to have the company set up in a place that was really supportive of this kind of use case. So I chose Estonia because I could really just manage everything online. I can send PDFs securely to my accountants. Like I said, the card has a signature functionality as well as encryption built in. So I can send, for example, a message to Tunis here, and he's the only one who can read that. I have his public key, and it's encrypted in a way that only he can read it. This also works at the signature level for any country in the EU due to a regulation called e-IDAS that's not super well understood outside the EU. But that's actually really important because if you're doing a lot of business with EU companies, you're able to now sign something in a high security. I forget what they have like different levels of signatures, and the Estonian ID smart card is one of the highest level ones. So that's kind of cool if you're doing a lot of business in Europe. And then finally, taxes. I'm sure we're going to get a whole lot of questions about that later. If you're able to keep your company as Estonian tax resident, which again, there's a whole lot of issues with that. I'm not your tax advisor, so please talk to qualified professionals about that. But if your company is an Estonian tax resident, then there are no taxes on reinvested profits, which is a very, very favorable situation. So fast forward to 2019 a little bit, and by this point, I've made about half a dozen trips to Estonia and met several dozen e-residents. And I had met so many of them, and we all kind of clicked really well. A lot of us were similar kind of location independent entrepreneurs and had very similar views of the world and how business and everything is going to go in the future. And so we decided to make an organization, as I mentioned earlier. It's called ERICA. It stands for the Estonian e-Residents International Chamber Association. And you can kind of think of it like a decentralized chamber of commerce. We're not associated with one particular country. We're just here to advocate for the interests of e-residents. And it's not all about business either. I've met like probably over 100 e-residents now in person. In fact, one of them ended up coming and staying in Korea here for most of the last year because he's a digital nomad and he was able to travel freely. So we hung out together here in Seoul a lot. We actually did a business contract together and worked for a Korean company down in the southern region doing an industrial automation project. And yeah, the community of e-residents is like something that I've never really seen before. So I would, even if you don't have a need to establish a company or anything like that with e-residency right away, then the community really is something special because we're a really like-minded group of people. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I hope that was interesting, and hopefully we get a lot of cool questions in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. It's great to hear from another nationality about yourself, to put it mildly. Yes, thanks a lot. We've got a bunch of questions about the services, and I'm happy to give over to Tõnis Jõgeva, who will take us through what the service providers can do for the e-residents, how much they are needed or they are not needed, and what is the benefit of those services, and the devil's always in details, like banking, like taxation, like physical addresses, accounting, and so on. So one office is one of the I wouldn't say many, but number of service providers. But we are very happy to have them and their expertise here online today. So over to Tõnis.
Thank you, Iti, and also thank you, Ülane and Ian. I mean, Ülane, you made really good arguments why do you open a company in Estonia and why it's quite beneficial to do it here. And Ian also like giving this insight how to do it when you're not really here in Estonia, but obviously being present at sometimes is really good. This Latitude 59 is like a really good event as well. Hopefully it will happen on site sometime again, because right now everything is online, as is this webinar. So we are really hoping to see your kind of people, Ian, who want to be present here in Estonia and hear what the community says. And actually, what's the idea behind it is that you can find people who want to do business and really expand on that business into EU or worldwide. And e-Residency will help to do it. And then definitely there are some things where e-residents need help. I mean, opening the company can be done independently once you have the e-Residency card. But again, as it is said, devil is in the details, and you might want to consider those details. So let me go over some of the basic things. Obviously, each case is different, so we have to take that into consideration. And that's why I really ask you to ask questions if you feel that I left out something, because I really cannot generalize everything into this presentation. But okay, I'll share my screen. I hope you can see it. Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, good. So I'll expand. Okay, this is the end part. So it's not the part I want to show you. Here we go. So the headline may be too long, but the idea is that you can run your paperless business internationally and remotely through Estonia. So you don't just have to consider EU. Many times already people said that, but and you don't have to consider only doing business in Estonia. And actually, like tax-wise and legal-wise, it's always going into the direction that you can do your business even more easily internationally. Even just recently, there is one new VAT system that also affects Estonian companies and also your future company. So yeah, all the legislation is actually going into this decentralization way, because everything is digital and online. So I think it's a good starting point for you to start with Estonia. Later on, you can see what you do. I mean, closing the business, everything can be done quite easily here in Estonia. So you're not definitely forever tied to Estonia, but I hope you will be. Anyway, One Office itself is actually a group. Of course, we started off from Estonia because it was so easy to establish companies in Estonia, and the tax system is good. So here we started, but we have expanded to other countries as well. Finland, Sweden, Latvia, Lithuania, and UK. So the Nordic region and Baltic region is covered, but also now UK after Brexit, maybe doing business with your EU company is more difficult. Then again, One Office can assist you to do the business in UK. We have over 40 specialists, actually 47 at the moment. So so that's also our team. It's always expanding for some reason. So we have a lot of interest recently for Estonia specifically, and hopefully this trend continues. Over 4,000 companies as our clients over the history that we've had, which is 11 years. And most of our clients are foreigners, so the common language here is English, or maybe Russian, because that's also quite close by and people are interested in doing business there. So again, Ülan, a really good job what e-Residency is and what it's not. If you're still confused, please listen again what Ülan said. I will not go over these slides because I think it was covered really well. Again, why Estonian company? Ülan made really good arguments, but the general idea behind it is that the bureaucracy level is so low due to this e-Residency. And this means that everything from setting up the company and then also managing it is quite cost effective compared to some other EU countries where you might want to open a company or any company internationally. So that's a big benefit. Also, you have this location independence that Ian mentioned many times. Most countries around the world ask you to always update your board location and where you're currently living, where you're a tax resident in. So does Estonia, but with e-Residency, it's really easy to let them know that what's your current location or board location. Then the fact that we are part of these big international organizations, I think OECD is one of the key things. It is the most developed countries around the world. So although Estonia is a small country itself, you still have that credibility behind it that, hey, the company is registered in a country where the trust level internationally is really high. And I would say also, I would add that if you're thinking of startup and obviously startups have high risks, then you can lower those risks by doing it in Estonia, because you can run the company with very low costs. Even if you start up something and you don't do anything with the company, well, then the situation is really simple, and then you can really get low cost prices to just maintain it, and maybe next year you have a better idea what to do with the company, and then again starting up your business. And also for growing businesses, and this is usually related about this tax code that we have, where we don't tax the companies if they generate profit. We only tax them if they decide to take out the profit, so if they decide to distribute dividends. And also the subsidiary part, but I will have a separate slide for that, so I will go into more details there. And before you start, what you really need to do is do research. As Ian said, a lot of the tax code and just useful information is available online on official pages. Either it's going to be e-Residency official page, or it's tax office official page, or whatever business registry. You can get some information from there already, but if you want to go into specifics, then you can contact service providers, or again, e-Residency team, or fellow e-residents like Ian. You can find them from Erika page and so on. So you do have a lot of help in doing your research. Then also, before you start, definitely think about the ownership and the management structure. There are different ways to open the companies. There could be multiple founders, multiple board members. The owners of the company can be companies, and they can be private persons, or some kind of mix of them. So there's your imagination is the limit, basically. It's quite common thing that people come in and they want to open a company, and then they have this specific name, and the domains are already registered and so on, and it turns out that the company name has been taken. So you'll need to prepare some alternatives. So definitely think about the company name, and you maybe would like to ask one office or whoever, is this name taken? Can I choose this? Is it trademark protected? Same goes with the field of activity. I mean, if your field of activity is IT consulting and your company name is, I don't know, TransferWise, then most likely you cannot take this name because it's trademark protected in that field of activity, or something like that. So think about these two things. And then also the share capital part. You do not have to pay it in Estonia, but it is a precondition to get out the dividends. So you can operate the company several years without paying any share capital in, but at some point you want to take out the profit, so then you have to pay in the share capital. And the minimum amount is 2,500 euros. And the big topic is your local taxes, of course, also Estonian taxes, and then other obligations that you might have, licenses or whatever it might be. But all right, so let's go into those legal aspects. I have a separate slide for each point here, so just let me move forward. I mean, this already was mentioned that opening the company is simple and online. Basically, you fill out the form. It will take you 20-30 minutes, and then they will usually register the company in 24 hours. But yeah, that's also part for the next coming slides. This was also already covered, but definitely look up a licensed contact person and address service provider. You can look them up from e-Residency website. There's a marketplace, so you can choose, as said, a simple package only for the address and contact person, but maybe you need something extra in that address. Maybe you want to store some packages, so look up who can store some packages for you and so on. So definitely there is variety in those service providers. But also about the address, what you need to consider is that in Estonia, the port location is public information. So when we register your company, we also need to know your office address, let's say. And for most people who are e-residents, the office address is their home address, or I don't know, some other address, parent's address, different addresses has been used. But this will be the address where your business is conducted from. And it can be your home address, but just consider that it's going to be public. And that's it. About my own one office, I will talk about later. Then accounting and annual reporting. This is also kind of legal, but also a bit tax aspect of your company. So the accounting has to be done. It's mandatory, but you do have the option to do it yearly. And if you're doing it yearly, it means that you don't have any other tax registrations in Estonia. You don't have Estonian employees, nor you don't have VAT number registered in Estonia. If that's the case, then you can do annual report once per year. We will report everything on your financials, on your activities. Based on that, the government, or actually the accountant already knows how much tax will you owe, but you owe taxes only when you take out the dividends. But yeah, this is the basis of your tax obligations in Estonia, but it might turn out that you do not owe any taxes. But as I said, there are two situations where you definitely need the accounting to be done monthly. And this is when you decide to register a VAT number. So it's similar to sales tax in the United States, but obviously different states have different sales taxes. In Estonia, the VAT is 20%, and actually the consumer of your products or goods pays the tax, but you just have to declare it to the government. And that's done monthly. Also, if you employ Estonians, local Estonians here in Estonia, then every month some salary, or maybe it's, I don't know, quarterly salary, but the declarations and taxes has to be paid on that, and that's also done by professional accountants. At least it's advised that way. But basically, with e-residency, you will have access to VAT system and employment system yourself, so you can make those reports yourself. But when you're starting off, maybe ask for professional help. But I mean, you have the freedom to do it yourself. And about annual report, I did mention that you can have an Estonian company that's basically dormant, that's not doing anything, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to fill in the annual report. Then it's just going to be like a zero report. There's no activities in it. And then, of course, when there's no activities in it, the pricing will be lower as well. So it has to be done no matter what. And then this would be your first indication of the maintenance costs of your company. So consider that this is one of them. The other one actually usually is the address, but for different service providers, it's going to be even a monthly package or a yearly package, or you can negotiate something in between. But that's the other maintenance cost that you will have in Estonia. Other than that, everything else is optional for you. Usually it's dependent on your needs. And you can always create a situation where your needs are actually smaller. So again, for these kind of things, definitely contact me or somebody from Erika or e-Residency team who will help you to actually understand what your needs are, because quite often we figure out with the clients that they want everything. They want like full legal consultations, accounting, everything every month. But then we look into the business itself, and then we can let them know and that maybe that much of services is not needed. So ask for advice. And another thing about legal aspect is that if you're maybe a bigger company and you already have established something in the United States or in some other countries, then you can actually locate a subsidiary in Estonia, a form of a branch, So you can set some, I don't know, startup section of your company into Estonia with lower maintenance costs and maybe lower risks. So this can be done. You can also take advantage of the situation, of tax situation in Estonia. The owner company, the owner of the subsidiary, can always put in money into this Estonian subsidiary and actually like pay employees for that and so on. So it's just an option that you have that many actually listeners or like clients from United States have asked from me. So I just put this in here that if you need it, then it's possible. How to exactly do it? Basically, you take your e-Residency again, you open a company for a private person, and through e-Notary, we transfer your private person shares into the parent company in the United States, for example. And then again, it's all digital, and I would say 2 weeks, 3 weeks to make it happen. So quite a quick process compared to other countries. But now, the slide that I want to focus most on, because this is the most complicated part, no matter where you do your business, I do dedicate only one slide on it because I hope we get some questions in later. And because also in the United States, you have 50 states, if I'm not mistaken. And it means that based on states, you also have different obligations. So the first thing to consider is your tax residency and figure out what that is. And then find a local tax advisor, actually, not a tax advisor from Estonia, but a local tax advisor who knows how your Estonian company's income will be taxed in United States or in your state. And the general idea behind it is that you have 2 ways of receiving income, basically, in Estonia, from Estonian company or Estonian entity. One thing, you can live off dividends. You can pay out that 2 times per year or maybe once per year. But then you pay this 20% tax here in Estonia, dividend tax, but you're going to receive it in your local state. And now you have to know how much is the tax rate on that foreign income from this foreign Estonian entity. I don't know, is it 10%? Is it more? So for each state, it's different. And that's why a local tax advisor is needed. So this has to be part of your research, definitely. Otherwise, you're going to receive this income from Estonian company. You think it's only 20% on the dividends. And later on, it turns out that your local state will come in and ask, like, what are these payments? Where the money is coming from? Have you paid taxes on it? So this is something to look out. But yeah, this is the dividend part, but you also have an option to take out monthly salary, weekly salary, quarterly salary, if you're doing work for your own company. Of course, you can do work for free, but obviously you want to get some money out, maybe more than once or twice per year, as are the dividend payments. So if you want to take the money out more often, then again, it turns back to your own local tax residency. Which means that on salaries, you're never going to pay any taxes in Estonia, as long as you're not a tax resident in Estonia. So you, again, determine what's your tax residency. For Ian, for example, I think now, I don't know how long you've been there in Korea, but I think by now you're a tax resident in Korea, which means that—
It's complicated, I'll answer that in a bit. Yes,
okay.
But I am a tax resident of many places.
Yeah, it can happen that some governments think that you're a tax resident here, but then you can prove that actually you're a tax resident there. So obviously Ian now has to prove to some other country that he's paying his, I don't know, salary and dividend taxes in Korea, and he has to give some kind of proof of it. Because it can happen if you're a digital nomad that you are considered tax resident in multiple countries, and but then you will have accountants, service providers like One Office who maybe can give you directions where to look for those proofs that will show that you're a tax resident. But again, this all goes back into your current location where you are at the moment, so they can help you the most about the taxes, actually. So always start with the beginning with the assumption that you will need to know where are you the tax resident. I think, Ian, maybe you can later explain, can you be tax resident in different United States also? I mean, if you're moving from one state to another, then also obviously your taxes change, but how fast? For example, I mean, in some countries you have to live 6 months in one place to be a tax resident there, or you have some other requirements. So definitely it's a tricky point. But once you figure out where you're a tax resident, then actually it becomes much clearer. Then you know that, hey, I consider these taxes here, those taxes there, and so on. And also with the tax residency, you might want to think about it before you open the company, because if you have the freedom to move around, maybe you will move to a country where the personal taxes are the lowest. I don't know if Ian had that in this calculation where to move, but sometimes, yeah, a lot of people live in Indonesia and Bali or Singapore, where the taxes, like personal taxes, are lower. So there's less hassle with that, then you can keep more of your profit. And another thing to think when you're choosing like where to do your business and where you're a tax resident, look into the tax treaties between countries. Obviously, one of the tax treaty countries is Estonia, but the other one, in your case, most obviously will be United States. But if you're relocating, then maybe Estonia, Korea double tax treaty. So that document also indicates a lot of things like how are the salaries, or how are the dividends priced, or how is your company, the generated income tax. So I mean, if most of your income is coming from clients in the United States, how much tax are you going to pay there based on the tax treaty, and how much in Estonia on those dividend taxes. So everything related to taxes comes down to tax residency and then the double tax treaty. And it's better to live in a country where Estonia has a double tax treaty to avoid the double taxation. And the final part, not really final part, but there's also this VAT taxation, which is actually consumption tax, which means that if you apply for a VAT number, which is obligational once you reach 40,000 euros worth of sales, at least in Estonia. If you only sell in United States and you reach 40,000 there, then it's nothing to do with Estonia, and you don't have to apply for the number in Estonia. Same goes, for example, in Germany. If most of your clients are in Germany, maybe you would like to get the VAT number there. But actually, this situation now is going to improve. It used to was that you have to apply for the VAT number in any of the EU countries where you conduct sales over 40,000 euros. And that's the turnover. But now they will change the rules from 1st of July that you can apply for the number only in Estonia. And now Estonian tax office will transfer the VAT tax either to Germany or France, wherever your sales were made. So again, it really simplifies your life, which means that you have the VAT number in Estonia, clients pay your invoices, your accountant does the work, declares the VAT taxes in the Estonian tax office, and now it's the Estonian tax office job to communicate with other tax offices in the EU and to really figure out like where this final VAT amount will be paid into. But for you as a customer or as an Estonian company owner, it's really easy. Just apply for the number, do your accounting, declare on the VAT, and rest is done by the government organizations. But there is really big one topic, and this is kind of complicated because it involves so many different things and different countries that I really cannot go into more detail. But basically, again, if you're opening up an Estonian company and you have really big business volumes and turnovers in some other country, let's say Sweden or Finland, or even again Germany, then if your business there is considerable and noticeable for the local tax offices, then they might consider your company to have a permanent establishment there, which means again, tax-wise, that you might be eligible to pay some taxes there. on your income. So this is definitely something to look out for, because if it turns out that you're opening up an Estonian company, do all of your business in France, and it's really big business eventually, then France tax officials might come knocking. Well, they're not coming knocking, but they'll definitely email you or call you that you are owing some taxes to France. But I would say that I've never seen a situation where our customers have permanent establishment just coming out of the blue. Usually, if there's a threat for permanent establishment, then the governments already, foreign governments in EU, they already actually notify you beforehand, which means that you actually cannot do any business before you have some registrations in that European country. And therefore you already know that you have to do those registrations, and then you have to pay some taxes there. So you cannot even start the business outside. And I would list out 3 countries that I know of that really ask you to do some registrations before you can actually even start selling there with your Estonian company. And they are Nordic countries, so Finland, Sweden, and Norway. If you want to start doing something there with your Estonian company, then you are not allowed to do anything before you have some minimum amount of registrations, which means that those local governments can actually follow you and ask you to submit financial data into their tax offices as well. So again, permanent establishment, really, really complicated, and this usually involves around doing massive amounts of business in other countries other than Estonia. So again, if you, let's take your situation, you're from United States, Oregon State, for example, then contact someone local in Oregon who knows about taxes, ask them what's the situation of this income and salary received from Estonian company. And then if you're doing like, I don't know, really you're selling cars, for example, in Denmark, then you also need to ask a Danish tax expert, like, what do you need there? Obviously, if you're doing business with one office, then we can help you in Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, United Kingdom, and Sweden. But other countries, you need a tax expert there. So long story short, taxes are complicated. They can make your head spin. But if you're starting off, then the tax residency is the most important thing. And the other things are like for future, like if you're really planning to expand worldwide, then consider permanent establishments and all the VAT things and so on. But for starting off, just your local things, so you would know if the idea that you have is really profitable. So questions later. Tax benefits already went over. I mean, if you're getting the profits into the company, Estonia is not going to tax you. It's been this way for 20 years already. But if you're getting, so it means that you can grow your business for, I don't know, 10 years. We're never going to take out the dividends. The profit accumulates. Nobody's going to touch that. You can use that money to reinvest. You can into your equipment or the stocks or whatever you might want to do. So that's your freedom. And only when you decide to take it out, then we tax you 20%. But again, consider the personal taxes in your local state. That's really important. Again, digital nomads can use it. So choose a tax residency where taxes are the lowest, and then maybe move there. It's just an option that you have. And then also bringing part of your company into Estonia can help you, because then you always can prove that, hey, you have this physical presence, maybe an office, maybe you will have some equipment here in Estonia that you use to produce for your goods or whatever. Then for foreign tax offices, you can always prove that, hey, your company is actually physically in Estonia, all taxes are paid in Estonia, and your tax office, your foreign tax office is, you cannot touch this. So, but again, this is a bit more complicated. You have to look into the details, how much of your business is in Estonia and so on, how many employees, and so on and so on and so on. So if you need to know about taxes, please contact like really qualified person who can help you out with that, and who can actually indicate who else might help you. And banking, this is also really important part because step 1, e-Residency, step 2, open your company, step 3, open bank account. And then Ülane went over the options. You have the option to choose any bank account around the world because Estonia itself doesn't have any requirements for the company to have a bank account at all. But obviously doing business that way is impossible. So choose a bank that's most likable for you. But going practically, using Estonian local banks can be a hassle because quite often they want a real connection with Estonia, which means employees or a warehouse or a physical office or partners or suppliers. So anything connected to Estonia, but it doesn't mean that you cannot contact Estonian banks. If you have like a really good plan, maybe prior business experience, you can show your financial data that, hey, it's going upwards and so on. So they are private businesses. Why wouldn't they want like a real good partner or a client for themselves? So definitely it's an option, but the easiest way to open a bank account to really quickly start everything, choose a fintech solution because they have lower transaction fees. They can be opened in a couple of days. You can get really quick support. You can have like different currency accounts, so you can get payments from all over the world, keep them in different currencies and not lose anything on the exchange rate and so on, so on. So actually, I would say fintech solutions are more beneficial. But if you have the need for loans or leases or something like that, then traditional banks are also something to consider. And that's it. So here are the steps, what to do. I already went them over. Do your research, which is part of listening this webinar, but then apply for e-Residency, register the company once you picked up the e-Residency, open the bank account, and then actually start your business activities and start invoicing your customers. So actually quite a lot of clients already line up their customers because once they have the e-Residency card, opening the business itself and the bank account with fintech is like maybe maximum 5 days with the bank account. And then you can already invoice them and start doing your work. And why one office? Well, we have this approach that we say fees upfront, which means that we decide on like a specific plan for you. These are your fees, including accounting if you need it, including like annual reporting, addresses, legal consultations, everything. So we will decide on the plan for you. Obviously, there are standard solutions, but we've seen that standard solutions still are not sufficient because people need this personal touch, like that their needs are met, and then everyone's needs are so different. Like, I mean, everything that we put out on our website, I mean, some things are really standard, like opening the company and the address, but going on to accounting and legal and tax consultations, that's so different for all people, and we really cannot say that this is for you, this all suits for you. So that's, I'm a really big fan for that. I mean, sometimes it means that clients can get so many fees up front, but then again, we can limit the plan for you and then say that, hey, you start up in 4 months, maybe with our like monthly packages and so on. So it's all about negotiation here. Again, we offer like different structures. Many founders can be in the companies. Many service providers have limited their scope, so you can only have maybe one founder, or you can do a specific activity. But again, everything that an Estonian can do, you can do with one office. So it can be more complex thing that you want to do. Again, this international experience that we have offices in different countries. Direct connection with business registry. I mean, I don't know how special this is, but we were the first ones to have this direct connection, which means that through API, you shoot off your application to the registry directly, which means that the registry approves your company quite fast. The fastest one is done in 20 minutes, I think, but usually it's like 24 hours to open a company. And the final thing that we are really proud of is this My One Office platform, which basically means that you will have a profile about you and your company. online with one office. You can log in with your e-Residency card or with your password or the Smart ID, which is also part of the e-Residency solution. And you can download the app on your phone, which means you can always check your company's post, the official post that you might receive, your accounting. You can generate the invoices immediately there. You can access our knowledge base or communicate with the sales team or support team, whoever you might want to contact with. So everything's in your pocket on the go, which can be really useful if you're doing business on the go, like always traveling. But we are constantly improving this My One Office system. We recently launched this user management, so it means that maybe you have a secretary who wants a different access system, so they cannot access maybe everything in your My One Office account. But then, yeah, you can think out of that different levels of access that you want to have for your employees or whoever. And soon we are going to have like international contracts available, which is again monthly subscription, and you can get 5 templates from that monthly subscriptions, which are like basic employment contracts and NDAs and such things, which can easily be modified again via your phone, via the app. And we hope that this will also bring extra value to our services, and you can really use and then utilize this solution for your company. And I'll end up quickly with the setup costs. I mean, the standard setup cost again is 265, and this will not change for any of the companies if you're a private person. And the address is also standard price. It's 290 euros per year. And this is, I mean, this is your initial throwing in price. You pay 555 euros plus the VAT. And then from this price, you can actually operate the whole year. And next recurring fee is again renewing the address 1 year after the incorporation. And then at some point you have to do the annual report. Either it's in, I mean, it's usually after 1 year of the business year, but it also depends when was the company registered. If you open the company today, then you submit the annual report next year by the end of June. But if you open the company in July this year, then you actually have 1.5 years to submit the annual report. So again, maybe you want to make a strategy and open the company in the second half of this year. So you would have at least 1.5 years to actually submit the annual report. But there are also maintenance costs for the accounting annual report. I already mentioned it's 175 euros. But if you want to take monthly accounting, then it's 65 euros per month for like minimum clients. Most of our clients get fees around like 65 to 150. But obviously there are bigger needs. So the fees for monthly accounting can vary from 65 going up to thousands if you have like a really good business and it's worthwhile of doing that kind of accounting with us. But yeah, if you need like a special offer for yourself, definitely contact me because everybody's needs are different. And now it's time for questions and answers. I hope there are a lot of tax questions. Here's my details. Definitely contact me personally, or if you need maybe quicker answers, you can contact sales. They are working there constantly, so you can get the answers over the workday really quickly. With me, I try to prioritize clients or customers also, but sometimes it will take me a bit longer. So if you need really, really quick answers, goes to sales@oneoffice.co. And if you need even faster answers, then go to our website, oneoffice.co, and open the live chat. So there you can get answers in live. But thank you, going over the time limit already. Thank you. And let's go to questions and answers.
Thank you, Tõnis. Very comprehensive overview. I want to be mindful of your time, so we have about 10 minutes, but I have a feeling that the tax question raised a lot of questions. So obviously, I would like to give it to Ian for comments, because I'm sure that he has a sense what you want to hear. And before doing that, I will cover one question that is repeated over and over again. as you understand, the card, the physical card that we are giving you for your secure digital identification is a trust-based service. So hence, we have to meet you in person to do that. So we can't send over the card to, unfortunately, to locations where you might be at the moment. We understand that there are restrictions for traveling at the moment, but the time span for picking up your card at the location where you have ordered it, it can be extended when you will contact the consulate or embassy where you have ordered your card. So just contact them and ask for their permission to keep the card for a longer period there. Of course, you can't extend it if it goes over the 5 years that the card has been issued for, understandably. That was a case here, I guess. But yes, it's not to make your life harder, but it's to keep the card secure, and we have to give it over to you in person. But now I'm giving over to Ian, back to tax questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ET, and for Tunis for your really detailed, comprehensive overview on the Estonian side. One quick note on that is that the Estonian side is actually...
It was not detailed enough, actually.
I know, right? As I'm sure we'll get into. The Estonian side is actually the simplest part for probably most of the people who are on this call here, as I'm assuming many of you are either US citizens or residents. One thing I didn't touch on in my quick story is that US citizens have a bit of a complicated tax situation compared to most other people in the world, because we have a policy of worldwide taxation based on citizenship, not based on residency. So as I was, it sounded like I was joking, but I'm actually totally serious. I'm always a tax resident of the US for the rest of my life that I'm a US citizen. So that means that I have to file US tax returns every single year, whether or not I actually have to pay any or not. I do actually have to pay US taxes in addition to South Korean taxes. So make sure that you read the tax treaty and find a US qualified CPA who can answer your specific questions. But the things that I would just write down or whatever, if you go watch the recording again on YouTube or whatever after, is you're going to need to file a form 5471 that is basically the equivalent of an Estonian annual report. It basically details like your company's balance sheet and income statement, beneficial owners, and all those kinds of things. And the IRS does care about that, and the penalties for not doing that are something on the order of like $10,000. So you definitely don't want to skip doing that, even if you don't owe any taxes as a result of that, which honestly you probably don't if you're operating outside the US at the corporate level. Another thing that you'll need to be aware of is a relatively recent tax edition called GILTI, spelled GILTI. It stands for Global Intangible Low Taxed Income or something like that. And go get a CPA to explain that to you, because that's something that's really, really important for US citizens. It makes it a bit complicated as far as retaining earnings at the end of the year for US citizens. So like Tunis said, one of the best things about the Estonian tax code is that you can reinvest your profits tax-free. Well, there's a bit of a caveat when it comes to US citizens. So you need to be really, really careful about how you do that. And so definitely check with that. You'll also need to be aware of the tax treaty when it comes to, for example, if you pay yourself an employee salary versus say a director or board member salary, that actually has different tax implications. The board member / director salary is always taxed in Estonia. That does not fall under the tax treaty for US citizens. So if you pay yourself a director salary like I did one year, then you'll pay the Estonian government that. You're welcome. And then Uncle Sam will also say, hey, we want some of that too. So you need to be mindful of all that. Let me double check if there was anything in the comments else that I needed to go over with that. I think that's about it. There were also a few related to like VAT and stuff that maybe Tunis could talk to here.
also took some of the examples here. I wanted to address Kelvin. Kelvin Stewart basically has e-residency card waiting for him in Tokyo. Well, he has like quite specifically described what he wants to do and where the clients are and so on. But as I understand, the main issue is that there are travel restrictions and you cannot go and pick it up. So definitely ask them to extend the e-residency card. But alternatively, actually, you can open companies in Estonia the old-fashioned way, so via notary. Which means that you will have to give someone the right to represent you here in Estonia in the notary's office. So that can be done as well with one office. So you can open the company via notary. You will send us a documentation explaining that, hey, we can represent you here in Estonian notary for specifically opening up the company for you. We will do that. And then later, once you pick up the e-residency card from Tokyo, you can actually still use it to manage your company because the company is already registered on your name and it will have this unique ID code in the population registry and it's all connected. So once you have the card, you can start using the card to actually manage the company or change whatever. Yep.
One quick note, really quick, a slight translation of sorts for the US audience. When you hear a notary, you probably think of a notary public, which is someone that you just go to get like a stamp basically saying that, you solemnly swear something or other. That's not what a notary means in the European context. It's a bit more of a broad thing and they're like an actual government agent who is able to do all kinds of other sorts of things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I want to buy a real estate property, then I have to go to the notary. They will make sure that the contract is clear, representing both sides and so on, and then basically certifies that, and then that all is good. But yeah, notary is a bit complicated in the sense that in this digital age, I really don't know what they do because a lot of their like things that they did the old times are taken away by this digital thing. But anyway, it's an option. Then there's one question if there's like foreign tax consultants that one office works with. Yeah, in specific countries we have, of course, in the countries where we operate, but also in Germany we have some expertise, and in the Netherlands and Belgium and Benelux countries. But it really hasn't been our like specific scope because again, I mean, take any federal, I don't know, republic or something like you will have one country, but it's divided into like federal things, and in those situations you have more and more different like local taxes, maybe city taxes. I don't know. The city can be like a free zone area. So it's really hard to actually find partners in strategic places and to understand like, you need to get the tax advice locally from the people from the country where you're living in. So that's the best advice. I think you can help yourself there the best. So there's also a question about crypto, holding it and trading it. So definitely you can consider crypto as just a currency. So your clients can pay in crypto and you can hold it and you can actually trade it as well. But it has to be your crypto. It cannot be somebody else's money and then investing and buying and trading. It has to be yours. As soon as you're taking somebody else's money to do something with crypto, you most likely will need some kind of a license. Either it's in Estonia or in the country where your clients are who pay for this service, for this crypto service that you're doing. But it's an option to hold and trade crypto at specific like requirements. Was
there anything special with the tax rates for that? I don't think so. It's basically just treated like another currency.
Yes. Yeah. It's totally.
My company is actually doing this right now, so it's totally doable. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a currency from now on, so it's quite mainstream. But as with money, if you take other people's money to put it in, I don't know, specific investment things, you are financial service provider and you need a license. So there's a question: is there VAT on exported services for companies outside of Estonia? So I mean, you have the option to apply for the VAT number in Estonia. And now with the new OSS system, so it's one-stop shop. which means that you apply for the Estonian VAT number, and now it doesn't matter to which country you actually export the service. I mean, the tax office later will figure out who the VAT amount will be eventually paid for. So you just need to have the number here in Estonia and in none of the other EU countries. And actually, I would recommend looking up for this term, the OSS one-stop shop, and also looking up for our news in One Office, because we are about to release a blog post about this, what it really means and how it affects Estonian companies. So other questions?
Dennis, I will take it for a second. I will address the question that Erik Maidla posted. Possibly he has left, sent his best, but no, Estonia is not considered to be a tax haven. It can be, yeah, if you Google it up, it's a buzzword to use, but Estonia is not avoiding taxes, but it supports the entrepreneurship. We as citizens of Estonia pay relatively high taxes that are comparable with Nordic countries. And but what we are talking about with the e-Residency, it's a business model where you can reinvest into your company. And you pay taxes as you take the money out from the company. But yes, really, I recommend to read the tax code, and I have put in a couple of links to make sense of this. But it would be unfair to call Estonia a tax haven. And there was another question about where to get your e-Residency card here in United States of America. It's handed out in New York City by the consulate there, and in San Francisco. And yes, please call ahead to the consulate or book a time slot on their webpage to make sure that you are there and they are there at the right time. So that's a couple of questions that we have covered. I think that we will definitely look at all of the questions that you have posted us, and we'll come back to you with the questions answered and send this via email to you. I will give a word to everyone for closing remarks, because I don't want to use your time in a way that it's not appropriate. So first, Ülane, would you like to take it from me?
Yeah, if I may just comment, with the COVID situation, a lot of the pickup locations and our embassies have been really open to prolonging the time that they keep the e-Residency cards. So several people were asking about this. So you please do contact our embassy and see if you can have it sent to Bangkok or to another place. So that's one thing I wanted to say, and also that we now have just launched 4 quite distant places for e-Residency pickup, which was a big step for us. But we are within this year opening up 15 more locations around the world. Part of those will be supporting our existing strongest markets, and part of them will be in quite new places for us. So stay tuned and keep an eye on this. So maybe Residency will actually be in your closest big metropolis very soon.
Thank you, Ian. Too.
Sure. Thanks a lot for listening. I just want to emphasize the community aspect of e-Residency. It's not only about business. We're a really awesome group of like-minded people that want to make the world a smaller place. So come join us. Come join Erika. I've put my email in the chat there. And one other thing I forgot to mention, a slight bit of self-promotion. Me and 2 other e-residents are actually working on launching a pre-seed startup accelerator, going to be completely online for e-residents. So if you are interested in that, then send me an email, and we would love to work with you. Thanks.
Thank you. Great piece of information. Dennis.
Yeah, there's not much left to say. I thank everybody listening, and I mean, I really hope that you contact us, because what we want to do is like, we want to take this e-residency and expand to other countries in a way that actually taking this mentality to other countries. I know that Portugal already has something similar going on, and then Ireland has like better tax things going on. And those are actually some of the places that we are looking into to expanding, which means that the dream is that one office can cover all Europe countries, actually from Estonia. You can get your Estonian company and then get this tax advice or whatever registration help in other EU countries. So definitely help us to do it. Come contact us and ask your questions. And if your idea or business is feasible, let's make it happen and become an e-resident and Estonian company owner. Thank you.
Thank you, Tõnis. And now the result of the poll, that we had 27 replies. Two of the replies, let's say 5%, said that they already have a company in Estonia, and 25, then 62.5% said that no, they don't have a company in Estonia. So let's turn it around, and next time we meet, the numbers will be reversed. Thank you very much. You will be sent all the materials that we used today, a set of links, also a link for the recording, and we will try to answer all your questions in that feedback. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry that we went over time for 6 minutes, and have a great rest of your day, and good night for the ones who are in the middle of their night. Thank you.